Are you ready to learn 5 new tricks you can use while digital painting? Well, this is the video for you. Trick 1 is called fractal trees. If you look out into nature, it's all fractals, isn't it? Oh my god, wow. Well, yeah. What I mean by fractals isn't like a math equation or anything. It's just this pattern of recurring shapes. Like you can see it everywhere. So to start, you start off with just one branch, as you can kind of see I'm drawing here, and then make sure there's little nodules on it. You can make any kind of branch you want. You can make it super thick, you can make it super thin. Ideally, you should probably make it taper a little bit and just add some little ding, 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 little stick points. You'll see why. Copy, paste, paste, boom, boom. Another one. We're just gonna kind of copy paste the branches, put them on the different nodules, and see it's a compounding effect. I've seen a tree that looks like this. It already looks like a damn tree. So you just copy paste, merge it down again. Now you have like an even more detailed branch, and you just keep adding on. I just kind of like kept going with it, by the way. I just kept going. If you keep going, it starts to look more like a dormant tree rather than a dead tree. Okay, here's where it gets real. I can make another. Look, add on another one to the, boom. That's a different tree. And like, what good is this if you just have like a stencil of a tree? Well, here I'm just adding a little color, and that is a perfectly serviceable background tree with no leaves on it. Look at that. You can use this however you want. Like, you can use this as a brush. You could turn it to a brush. You could, as I'm doing here, making a little painting out of it. It doesn't look super good. It's a little rushed, but, you know, what can you do? And the same applies for grass. I did the exact same thing here. Made a piece of grass, duplicated it. Now we have a thicker patch of grass in this snowy landscape. Wow. Add a little structure in the background. Perfect. And this is what I ended up doing. Thought it was kind of cool. I added some color grading, so it looks like a dark winter's night, and that's it. Now, you might have some complaints. Doctor, this looks too flat. This looks like a stencil. This looks too flat. Well, let me show you how you could do it another way for a more three-dimensional tree. Because that's just how versatile this technique is. Okay, in the beginning, this is going to work a little bit differently. If we want a more 3D looking tree, we need to have a more 3D approach. So I'm using the mixer brush in Photoshop for this, but you can just render a branch. If you can render a ball, you can render a branch. It's just a tube. And that's right, we're copy and pasting again. Except this time, we're going to think a little bit more about, like, I'm imagining looking up at the tree. So it's going to get smaller as it gets further away. Now, my perspective isn't perfect or anything, you know, still getting better every day. And then that's the approach. Just keep going. An important thing to note is sometimes I'm putting the branches behind other branches. It kind of helps with the 3D look of things. Occasionally I'm editing stuff, like just making it a little bit darker to simulate ambient occlusion. And if you didn't know, ambient occlusion is just the darkening of a surface, or honestly anything, where light has a hard time reaching. So think like an apple on a table, you know, where the apple is close to the table, it'll get a lot darker. And a lot of people think this is just at like a tiny micro scale, but no, you can see it in buildings too. As long as the underlying geometry is the same, ambient occlusion will look the same no matter what scale the object is, I think. Yes, this building is in shadow in here, but you can see in the corners it gets a lot darker. That is ambient occlusion. It's on to the leaves now. I'm only gonna make 3 because we're gonna fractal them. You know what I'm saying? Just do some simple shading and some ambient occlusion insinuated. Duplicate, add a little ambient occlusion. Duplicate again, add a little bit more. And now that we have this little mini bush, we can just kind of copy paste it around our tree. Warp it around a little bit. Lovely. Add a little bit of ambient occlusion, of course, because there's so many objects that are so close to each other. And yeah, make sure to put it behind some branches, in front of some branches. This is a pretty sparse leaves look, but you can probably go denser. And boom! This is the final look. I didn't really do as much about painting for this one. If you're a lot more careful with this, you could definitely make a super dope looking tree. I was a little sloppy, not gonna lie.
And now, it's time for the next trick, which will blow your mind. Warping.
A lot of people know about warping, but you know, don't ever underestimate its power. Okay? You hear me? To begin, we start off with a square. I'm just making like a fabric texture with this. You know, you good old fabric. Put some lines in it. And now we warp. This trick is very useful for people like me who are stupid and can't draw stuff in perspective like this. For instance, capes. Now you can have a texture that forms along the cape. Look at that. You ever seen a cape beautiful like that? You can even change the detail size of the warp. Oh wait, you see that? I just added a little ambient occlusion. Nice. I did a little touch up, a couple touch ups, and that was about it. Cool cape. And you're not limited to capes. You can make a shirt. I don't know. I'm not that creative. You gotta try this out by yourself. Report back. Oh, you thought we were limited to fabric? The only limit is in your mind. Right now, I'm drawing like a building facade. I'm just putting in some ambient occlusion. Let's say I'm in the market for a curved building. Well, normal old transform tool can't really do it for you. You gotta turn to warping. Check this out. Photoshop has these really cool like warping presets on the top left, so I just pick a random one and go with it. If you don't have Photoshop, it's okay. Adobe can suck my nuts. I'm sure most drawing programs have a warp mode. I know Krita does, and Krita is free. For our next warping victim, we're gonna do another curved little building, set curved the other way. And wow, you can make a whole illustration out of this.
The only limit is your mind. It's time for trick number 3.
Trick number 3 is fractal clouds. I know I sound like a broken record here, but trust me, the fractals are cool. First, we start off with a soft ball. Paint a soft airbrushed ball. And now, we duplicate it, baby. We copy paste. We lower the opacity this time, though. This is kind of an opacity game. The more you lower the opacity, the more wispy the cloud will look. The less, the more like kind of, crunchy. You know when you get the crunchy popcorn clouds? Yeah. And honestly, this was looking pretty horrible right about now. But I just kept going with it. We add more clouds, and then we add more, and then we keep adding more. I was kind of playing around with blend modes here because I was like, man, something just doesn't look right. Anyway, finally, I finished her off with a big airbrush, and that really helped stuff out. It made it look really cloud-like, if you will. And then I punched a couple holes through the clouds just by airbrushing on some sky blue, very saturated blue, and then I just color graded that baby, and I thought it looked pretty good. I also warped it. Sorry, you know me with the warping. For the next one, I started off with a differently lit little cloud airbrush bubble, and it looks totally different. It honestly kind of looks like snow for some reason. You know, like those dents in snow, which I kind of want to try out doing that. I cleaned up the edges here. The more you change that first cloud and the way you change how you copy and paste, you can get some crazy results. Like, we've only scratched the surface here. I had a vision of a sharp cloud appearing behind this front one. So I did just that. I didn't lower the opacity as much and gave me that popcorn look. Just what I wanted. And then I color graded it, and this is what I got. I think it's pretty cool, okay? I don't want to hear your hate.
Now it's time for trick number 4.
This one's going to be a short one, but a goodie because it's super useful. The lighten layer. If you're like me and you're on the journey to making a translucent ball, well, first you gotta make a ball. Shade it like normal, you know. You can add reflections if you want. I did. I had a little specular and a little reflections on the side. Just ignore that, okay? Just ignore that. Next thing we do is we add a new layer. Just totally fill it with like a darkish color. I'm going with like kind of like an orange yellow here. And then you just erase it where it's thickest. Well, I painted with black, but I think it does like a similar thing. And you can erase a lot of it for just like a subtle translucent effect, or you can keep most of it. And this effect is not limited to balls, oh no. And this is pretty standard procedure. We're just gonna apply a dark green color to this guy because he's made of plants or something. And erase, honestly, just erase where it feels good. You know, you can't go that wrong with it. Ideally, you think about how much material the light has to pass through, but it's not that big a deal if you don't do that. You can use this on all kinds of stuff, like leaves, skin, jello, maybe.
And now, we're on to the final trick. Embossing.
That's right. That normal old tricky little filter that no one ever uses. Well, it's time to use it. If you, for some odd reason, don't have the option to emboss, you can just duplicate all your stuff, invert it, and then set it to 50% opacity. And it should be flat gray. And then once you move it, you get the emboss effect. Wow. And you can actually use this in all kinds of different ways. You can warp, you can keep what you embossed and use the emboss as an overlay and do crazy stuff with it. I don't know. You can also use emboss to light a height map if you want. You can take a black and white image and then emboss it, and you get lighting. You can then use this lighting on another image to, I don't know, give it a bumpy surface if you want. This is super useful for stuff if you want to do like bezeled metal. All you gotta do is just paint a height map, which I did here. And for those 3D people out there, I know there's like one of you maybe. You just paint a height map, which I'm doing here. And I'm using emboss to check like how it'll look. I'm not going super crazy or anything on this. It looks kind of scary. But on the red channel, you emboss from left to right, which is the x-axis. And on the green channel, you emboss from top to bottom, which is the y. And then I just made a little ambient occlusion on the blue. I hope you enjoyed these 5 different tricks that you can use while making digital art. Peace out.